Yo, what's the crack? Listen, this is Live at 11. I'm Sean McGarty, and I've got my special guest on the show with me here today, Mr. Tim Drummond. Introduce yourself to these dudes and tell these people what you do.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm a coach. I run an online business teaching personal trainers how to get results with their clients online. Been in the fitness industry for about 10 years now.
10 years?
10 years. I'm old school, so it was quite, early adopter, I guess. It was, I think back in the day, I spent like £4,500 to learn to be a personal trainer. Now it's like, what, 300 quid. So, yeah, been doing it for a while. Yeah, you've seen it.
Jesus Christ. Well, do you know something? I don't think that's a good thing, that you can become a personal trainer for 300 quid now.
It's terrible. It's absolutely ridiculous. It was painful spending that sort of money on it. It was good, but yeah, it's ridiculous. Which is why people can come in and charge 15 quid, 10 quid.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what you guys do, right?
Oh, Jesus, mate. I see people on Groupon these days with who think they're personal trainers, you know what I mean, charging like 10 quid. I mean, by the time you take a tax out of that, fuck me, you couldn't even get yourself a cheap Americano, can you? Like,
yeah, I know. But I kind of also think, though, that it gives you an opportunity to qualify properly and learn properly, and then you can charge 5, 6, 7, 10 times as much as those guys as well. So.
No doubt about it. And that's actually what we're going to be getting talking about here when we get really into this thing, because like the title of this show is the 5 strategies basically that were pivotal to your success as a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. You're an author, very well-known trainer in the UK. You trained like A-list celebrities. I think Misha Barton was one of the girls you mentioned that you've trained.
Yeah.
And you've actually charged around about, I think, 12K from memory you were talking about for a 16-week transformation program. Tell me, is this all true? Tell me all about this.
Is it true? So look, it's always the first one. Look, what I'm not saying is that I had 20 clients a year paying me that, but my standard price is, and it is true, I was even quite salaciously in the Sunday Times. So they did an interview on me, and they basically I was charging about £2,000 a month in English. I was in fitness first, and I was doing all right there. I got up to charging about £1,000 a month, like to see someone 4 times a week. And I just decided, like, the best people in London at the time were, or the best, the biggest sort of brand was a company called Bodyism, and they were charging £125 an hour. I was on the monthly model, so I just basically decided that I'm going to charge the same as them. And then just spent the next 3-4 months figuring out how to do that. I got my first client at £2,000 a month on a recurring, and that was my price point for quite a while. Then I started doing more of the transformation model, and I went online as well. So I started doing more online fitness. To be honest, the last person I took on at that price, I just made it up on literally as I walked into the hotel to speak to him, and I just thought, fuck it, I'll ask him. This is what he said to me. He actually said, "Is that per month?" Well, and he was serious, and I was like, "Shit, I should have thought quicker." So, but look, I think the thing to say is, like, I did put myself in a position where I was working in London, I was working in Mayfair. I was in front of people that had a lot of money, so it did help, obviously. But it's always relative. There's wealthy people everywhere, or wealthier people everywhere. So, that was true. Sometimes people don't believe you, but. I'd written a book as well, which those kind of things to go out and gives you authority of stuff, and getting press and getting celebrity clients gives you authority that people think that you must be good. Obviously, then the first part of it is make sure that you actually are good as well, because if you charge a lot of money and then you're a terrible trainer, it will eventually come back and bite you in the ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if someone's paying that sort of money, then everything has to be congruent. The way you communicate your messaging, from the first time they meet you, it's got to feel like a completely different experience. And you can't charge, and that's what you're saying. You can't just charge big money and basically serve the equivalent to a McDonald's hamburger.
And like when with the bigger packages that I started doing, obviously it was outside I wasn't in fitness first anymore. I'm just trying to adjust the light, so there you go. And I'd get all suited and booted, and I'd turn up and I'd meet them at like the Bulgari Hotel. Like, they knew, generally speaking, they'd known something about me. It's normally referrals, word of mouth. So they had a bit of an idea that it was going to be those kind of people. Wealthy people don't care about the money. It's never about the money. In fact, I spoke to one of my clients who had been with me for He probably spent about 50, 60,000 with me over sort of 2.5 years. And we became really good friends, and we were just talking. And I said to him, because we talked about business, I was like, from my experience, wealthy people don't care. It's not about the money. They just don't want to have people thinking that they're taking the piss out of them. Mm-hmm. And he said, it's exactly right. Because wealthy people are so used to people trying to take their money, like they're very good at knowing that as well. They'll see through you if you're a chancer. Whereas if you go in there with confidence and you do know what you're doing and you can sell and you know how to do that and you know how to present yourself, then the money thing is never the issue when they say, yeah, let's do it. It's just like they don't care. It's like one of my clients was he ran 2 hedge funds, and he won a week's training with me on some big London auction thing. And he came in for the first session and he didn't even want to know how much. I started saying how much it was, and he's just like, he's French, and just basically said, just invoice my PA. It was like 12 grand. I mean, he literally didn't care. He was paying me 3.5 grand a month.
Yeah.
Money was never an issue to him. It's about time. It's about their time, not yours. Like, I would dread to think what his hourly rate was. He wanted to get in there, get the job done, get a result, feel like he's in the right place, and then get back to his, I don't know, whatever his hedge funds do. So,
probably a fucking yacht, mate, in Monaco.
Mate, I've never met someone as rich as that in my life until the last client I took on anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's not about the money ever with them. They've got to trust that you're the right person. It's as much around wasting 3 months with someone who doesn't know what they're doing. They wouldn't care about the money. They would care about the fact that they've wasted 3 months. So there's a lot of, like you said, of messaging and your own presence as well, of how you can't turn up to a situation like that and not know what you're doing, put it that way.
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, there's where you are now. And what I always like to tell trainers, because the people in this group, you're going to have a mix of guys that do run their own gyms. Even the people that we mentor inside of Ascension in our groups, they range from dudes making like just 8K a month to $500,000 a year. Do you know what I mean? So like there's a massive gap there. You didn't walk out the door after paying your 3.5 grand or whatever it was for your PT cert and just fall into this. There was a process of years of work and effort and probably struggles to get to where you are. Can you talk us through, like, how long did it take? What was the process? What were your early struggles to get where you are now?
So when I remember when I first started, like, to be honest, like I walked into fitness first, and there's loads of, and look, I get why people are like that. I think that they think it's going to be easy, and yet it's not. And so they think, like, they don't realize, number one, the importance of running a business. And some people take it to a point where it's almost like becomes like a dogma for them. I don't want to be a business person. I don't want to be a salesperson. I don't want to do marketing. I just want to be a trainer. And you're like, well, good luck, because no one's going to give you any money. So they'd be sitting there on their asses, like moaning about clients not having any clients and drinking lattes. And I was just like, that's bullshit. That's never going to get you anywhere. And to be honest, I remember the first client I got, he was just reading the profile board in the gym. So I just thought, might be interested. So I just went up to him, and I don't know what, I just talked to him and asked him, and we sat down, and he bought like 3 sessions a week, which at the time was like 400 quid. And I was just like, this is fucking awesome. Like, he's just giving me like 400 quid. Like, I'm doing what I love doing. And I realized even early on at that point, it's like the struggle is you're going to have to do things that other people aren't going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, like, and the level, and it's not always the trainer's fault, but the level of what they think they need to do is often very low. I'm just going to almost sit there and be a good trainer and everyone's going to come to me. You're like, no. Like, there were so many stages of like getting stuck, not having enough clients, walking the floor, hating walking the floor. Like, you know, I was in a commercial gym.
Yeah, me too. I started there too.
Yeah, and it's just like, I hated it at first. I remember the first day, literally at Fitness First, they talked to me for 15 minutes and then they're like, there you go. I had 8 hours of the day. That was it. It was like I went and hid in the toilets, to be honest. I literally,
you know what? There's trainers in gyms, like, and maybe some listening to this that will still not do what you were prepared to do there. And like that's going to be the difference between them actually getting a client or even learning how to communicate better, strike up better conversations, show that you're a person of interest who can help with their problems. There's trainers that still don't do that, and the clients are right there for the taking, and yet they will stay in their comfort zone.
I've even had like trainers, like the guys that I mentor, and they'll go up and speak to someone, and their person will be like, "Oh, I kind of wanted help, and no one's ever come up to me and spoke to me." Or the flip side is that everyone is like that desperate sort of man who's trying to get a date, like, you know, lurching around people, and it's so icky and uncomfortable. It's like at least like I'd prefer to be the person that's making an effort. So that was always the struggle. I didn't like doing it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't like doing it. The first day I was just sitting there in the toilets for 20 minutes going, I don't want to do this. I can't do it. And then in the end, you realize, like, just man up and go and do it and learn how to do it by just speaking to people. Yeah. Then you realize that actually, like, there is a way of doing it. Like, at first when I sold, like, one of the things I said, one of the 5 things is learn to sell. Like, when I first learned to sell, it was just I talked a lot. I would just talk to the person enough that eventually I would get to a point where I got a little hook in, and then I would just sell them on that. And it would be like, oh, they tell me they don't do weights, for instance. That would be it. Be like, okay, there. And that's what I'd sell them. But then you learn more and more that actually the best way to sell is to just shut up and learn to ask good questions. And then that becomes much more comfortable. All of these stages are quite hard to do, though. There's a massive struggle in wanting to learn to do that.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, it is uncomfortable to walk the floor and do what you did. Like you by trial and error discovered these things. Oh fuck, right, okay, maybe I'm talking too much. I'll you know, and you do that from repetition, and that may be uncomfortable. But you know what's more uncomfortable? Not being able to pay your fucking rent.
Yeah.
Get your phone cut off. Not being able to take your kids out or your missus out to eat and shit. Your card bouncing when you're trying to go to the shop. That's really fucking uncomfortable. I would rather have the uncomfortable feeling of an awkward conversation till they learn a better sales pattern than like going home to my missus and saying like, we have to move out of this house, we're getting fucking evicted. That's a shit day.
I had a late night conversation with my missus. Was really nice. She was supportive, but it was a late night conversation of like, it wasn't said, but it was the when are you going to get a proper job kind of one.
Ooh.
And I was like, this is not good. And like she was from Latvia. Not sure if this made any difference, but I think there was a bit. She's really nice, by the way, but there was a bit of an expectation.
Your missus from Latvia?
What's that?
Is your missus from Latvia?
She was, yeah.
All right.
She still is, but she's not my missus anymore. So yeah, I don't know if there's a bit of an expectation. It's like, which probably is right if you're a guy, that you should actually be able to fucking pay for things and like earn money and support us and all that. So, I mean, she was really nice. She never said it like that, but yeah. And the thing is, I think also when you're like 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and you earn in London, I don't know, you can earn 3-4 grand a month in a gym in London Central. You probably don't put half of that through the books. You've got cash coming out your ears. Like, that's actually not the worst thing in the world. But when you get to like 30, 31, 32, and you've got a mortgage and you've got kids and you want to actually like put the money through the books and be all
you want to fucking blow up.
Exactly, and that then becomes a problem that then you do need to start being able to step up. Otherwise, you know, spanking money every week, going out at the weekend is all good, but that's not going to last. No.
Cool, mate. So we've talked about some of the struggles, and some of the things you said there about getting uncomfortable is exactly the same sort of stuff we would preach to our guys too. Yeah, we're on the same level there. Which is the other thing's my wife's Lithuanian, which is very, very close to Latvia. So I feel your pain, mate.
Yeah. I mean, there's great parts of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm in Ukraine, where I'm hanging out now. So
yeah, you're in Ukraine, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just hanging out here for 2 months. I'm going to go to Odessa by the sea next week. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, here, mate, let's get into these 5 strategies. Hit me up with these 5 strategies. What's these strategies that have been pivotal to your success here, mate?
It sounds really obvious, but the first one is like get results. Get results, learn to sell. Talked about like what I call like throwing spaghetti at the wall and just like trying lots of stuff and realizing that 1 out of 20 things might work. The rest of it probably won't. And being okay with that. I didn't know that at the time. I used to beat myself up so much because nothing seemed to work. But you know, that's because I was trying a lot of stuff. I'm a big believer of personal growth. Like, I think that as business owners, we're always going to be the limitations to our business, like us as like our own development. If we've got and that's not often our fault, but if we've got like a small mind or a little picture, like things don't ever work, that kind of thing, you're going to end up like no Facebook ad or funnel is ever going to get you out of that. So I think that working on ourselves as self-development, I think is been the most important thing that I've done out of all of them. And then I think I had one more. I did have one more.
The self-development one, I want to pick on that one because like we just talked about at the very start of the call, you know, going back, Jay was on the phone to his missus. When
you get one of them phone calls where it's like a message, hey, ring me. Oh shit, something's going on here. So Tim, how are you now?
So we were talking, he missed Jay, but when he did his personal training cert originally, it was like $4,000, right?
Yeah.
Now today, I think in London, there's ones that you can do online for 300 quid. You're basically just buying a fucking piece of paper, aren't you, with your name on it? I mean, like, and some people in their naivety at the beginning think that that's really all they need to know. You know, I just need this cert, you know?
Yeah.
And now even there are some people who might invest a bit more and get a personal training cert, and then they think, well, that's it now.
Yeah.
That's a fucking huge mistake, isn't it?
And I remember, Premier, I think back in the day did good stuff. And I think what happened, I remember looking back at all the stuff they taught me like 18 months later, because I just randomly found it in the bottom of my cupboard. And I actually started reading it then. And everything that they had taught me back then it made sense now. Like a good qualification company teaches you so much, but you can only take a certain amount in, even however good it is. So I basically took what I needed to know at the time, and then I realised like how great the stuff they taught me was, but I didn't necessarily realise it until 18 months later. And I actually sat down and read through it all again and relearned it all. Like I think like, you know, number one is like get results for clients, which obviously sounds like, yeah, well, of course, but learning nutrition, learning the training is awesome, and you have to do that. Like back in the day, it was like Poliquin and Check and kind of these guys, and I went and did all those courses, and I learned loads about how to train people, like the nutrition based stuff. But then you still developing, like, and for me, there was a big change around, I think it was around about 3 years in, and I knew enough at that point to know that some clients would get really good results and some clients would get terrible results. And I knew I'd gone from everyone getting terrible results to like actually some clients got unbelievably good results, but I'd have others at the same time that do nothing. And I realised that there's something going on here. It's not just about the basic information. I needed to start understanding, how do I get my clients to implement stuff? And it sounds so simple, but that was the start of understanding coaching and understanding the behavior check. Because like most people don't eat donuts and drink too much. They all know it. It's just your ability as a coach to be able to impart that and get them to follow your guidance. So for me in the fitness industry, you've got a decade of learning and there's still more to do, which is why I love it so much, because you can learn all the stuff for the first 3 years around training and that. And then you can decide like, well, there's still so much more. Like still now, some of my clients don't do what I say. Like, okay, I need to figure out why that is. Generally what's going on up here. So if you're not getting results based on certainly the price points that you're charging, I think Elon Musk talks about it, and he says something like, he talks about like what does he say? You can charge in proportion with the problems that you solve. So you solve bigger problems, i.e. for clients that other trainers can't solve the problems for, because just telling them is not good enough. And actually having to be able to coach them and impart the doing, then that helps. Solving problems for the same problems from wealthier people, or even solving the same problems for like specific types of people, like entrepreneurs or whatever, that obviously helps. But the key to all of that is learning to get results with clients that other trainers haven't. Especially the more I charged, I started getting a lot of clients that had like 8 trainers before, like literally. And it was like, they come to you eventually because the perception is you're going to get them better results. So again, you need to make sure you fulfill on that. So I think the results thing is just, and by the way, I've run an online business. I've run more of a one-man band. If you said a lot of your guys have gyms, if you've got a gym in an area because of the locality and you're charging more and you don't get results, your business will just get destroyed so quickly. I don't know if you agree. I mean, you guys probably know more about that than me, but it's not.
It makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. Well, look, the stuff you give there is 100% fucking on point, dude. But knowing what you know now is different to what you started, right? So if you were giving advice to guys who are a bit apprehensive, like let's say dudes who are listening to the show and they're not even in the fitness industry yet, there's something holding them back, there's some sort of fear that they're trying to overcome. What would you say to someone to help them overcome the fear of getting into the industry? Because some of the stuff we said there is a wee bit scary too, and it's like it's fucking hard. You have to sell. You know, there's all these areas that people might not have considered before. So, what would you say to those people to help them overcome that fear?
First of all, you've got to look at like fucking how awesome it is. Like I'm living in Kiev for 2 months. I live in Malta. I've got quite a nice life that I've built. Like I earn a lot of money. Like I can do what I want. Like being a personal trainer and doing something. I used to be a futures trader, so I used to work in the city. Before everything went tits up and the big crash and stuff. And I fucking hated it.
You sound like you're from Epping or sort of East End, are you?
No, I'm actually from Cambridge somehow. I don't know quite what happened.
Are you?
I know. Cambridge is meant to be hot, but I don't know what happened. So there's a lot of
East London accent though, don't you?
There's a lot of those guys when I was trading. A lot of them.
All right.
These are just like Essex boys who basically just
yes, that's it.
Yeah, and some of them made a lot of money, right? Some of them didn't, but they were just stuck in this job for like 20 years. And I remember and I didn't know at the time because that's what I wanted to do and be. And there's guys like my age now, and they were miserable fucks. They hated their lives. They had some money, but then I realized 5 years later, I didn't do that. I moved to just do something that I love doing. And it's so enjoyable. It's the best thing you could ever do. Like doing something that you actually give a shit about. And if you do give a shit about it, you're much more. I make way more money than I would have made as a trader, which is kind of strange because like fitness isn't always the easiest thing to do that in. But I think if you really care about something, like you'll love it. Like it sucks. It sucks getting up at 6 a.m. to go and see clients. Like it's a bitch, but learn a little bit stuff, finish at 3, you've got a fucking awesome life. And you can make a lot of money. And it's peddled a bit and it's like, you get to help people and all that stuff. And sometimes I'm like, do you really mean that? But I actually do. I think probably selfishly as well. I like being good at what I do. Like I like the feeling of getting results with clients that other people haven't been able to. Like my ego just fucking loves that. So I would never do anything different, man. And I think it would be crazy. It's like, it's a bitch, it's hard, but you'll feel good when you've actually built something that means something.
I like that.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Definitely. So listen, if you were looking back to your old self, imagine your younger self, you just got your certification. What 1 or 2 pieces of advice, would you give yourself that's like, listen, you got to do this?
It go to number 2 that I said is like, you need to learn to sell. Okay. I think that one of the challenges with people, especially when they start to think that they can, like they were like me, they'll just talk. And it's like, yeah, that works to a certain extent, but there's so many nuances of actual learning about communication. And and this was probably 3 years after I started. Like, first of all, like put effort into that. Like read and learn from some salespeople outside of the industry often, because there's a lot of people that do it. Like go on YouTube. There's an awesome Tom Hopkins video. It's only 60 minutes, but it's like, it talks about like how questions are the answers. I love sales. I think it's the most interesting thing that you could ever learn about. And there's so many layers to it. I would have started earlier. I would have, because it just makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, definitely.
So much easier. So definitely that. I probably would have got into and I get this is levels, by the way, because at first you're like, you need to learn about nutrition and training. I probably would have got into behavior change a bit earlier and understood how important that is. So I used to get frustrated that clients didn't do what I said. And I thought that the problem must be give them more complex training programs, well, they just weren't sticking to the ones that I gave them in the first place. Like that was the problem. So being able to step back and realize that, what's the quote? I can't remember now, but like basically most people should simplify what they do.
Yeah.
Like give clients less, not more if they're struggling. There's a great book called Switch as well, which goes into some of this at first, just kind of entry level stuff. So definitely that. Yeah, I think that's probably mainly it.
Cool.
I think that's the most overlooked one as well that we see with trainers too. You know, is they have this idea. I think again, it's naivety and I suppose just being young as well. Look at me, I'm in fucking great shape. You know, when all people need to do is just see my abs, and then they're going to want to give me money. You know, or they think and that's one portion of what the false belief is. And I think another one is, no, look, I just need to be the best trainer on earth, and word of mouth will take care of all the rest. You know, everybody's just going to tell people about me, and as long as I stand there with my abs, you know, if they don't know about me, well, once they get to look at me, then I mean, it's going to be great. They're going to want to give me money, and then you discover that like you could be the best trainer on earth. If no one knows who you are, you're the best kept secret in the fitness industry, and there's actually no one who even knows that they should give you money, even if
like to be honest, actually, a lot of the time, that actually probably does them a disservice more than does them a service as well. Because Doris in the gym is actually shit scared of you. She's not going to come near you. Like, yeah, there's a couple of dudes that want to look like you, but you know, your general people, they probably, and especially if you're attracting people from outside a gym. So when you're in a gym, you're already talking to the 5% of the population that actually has a gym membership and goes. 95% of the population is where you build businesses, not in the 5%. Those people are scared of the gym. They hate the gym. It's scary. Like everyone's fit and like, you know, and looks all ripped and stuff. In fact, when you are that fucking swole, you almost need to understand the amount of empathy that you need to bring to the situation. So you understand them, or they think you understand them more. Marketing and sales are huge. Like you're not going to build a business from word of mouth. It's just not going to happen on its own. You should get referrals and stuff, but you need to know how to do that properly as well. Like referrals is not by mistake. The client that I got for 12 grand, he was a referral from another client that was paying me 2 grand, who was also a referral from another personal trainer. So learning how to get referrals it's a skill based on sales and persuasion. It doesn't just happen randomly. So I think like the business side of it, maybe people at first think like that. Maybe they feel like it's a bit like they'd be a bit out of their depth, but it's actually I found it really fun when I realised that was all a misconception. Sales and marketing is great. If you don't want to do all that, then cool, go and work for someone who gives you an awesome job. One of my clients who I did online stuff with, he's got 4 gyms. His staff never leave, ever, because he's just got it set up so those staff love being there. They get everything that they need. They just don't do the outbound marketing and stuff. So there's so many opportunities that you can do, and your staff make good money, by the way. So I think there's lots of ways that you can overcome some of those initial fears. Or just, as I say, I find sales. I love sales. So much fun.
Is that the area you're moving into? Because like you have a group, behavioral change and stuff. Is that the field you're going into now? Is it NLP and more that end of it?
Yeah. Coaching and sales are basically the same thing in some ways. Like it's the way that you look at it is persuasion. How do you get someone to do something that you want them to do that they all show is good for them as well? Yeah. So that's sales. If you're good at coaching, you will be good at sales. If you're good at sales, you become a really good coach. And persuasion is huge. It's the most important thing that I think that I sort of teach now. So behavior change is exciting. It's fun. It's interesting as well. So I think what happens with a lot of personal trainers is they get to a certain point and they become a bit bored. Like everything becomes a bit samey, and the frustration of clients not doing what you said. And then they blame themselves, or they think that I don't know enough about program design. It's nothing to do with that. There's a lot of deeper stuff going on with why your client, and it can start very simply, just why your client doesn't do stuff. Figure that out. Like it's not, you don't need more information, you need less. So a lot of the stuff I do now is more around behavior change, but that doesn't need to freak people out. Like I run a personal development. That's the coaching that I actually do myself now, like in the trenches. is more personal development stuff for guys. But fitness is a big part of it. So we still work on this a lot. But you can start at any level. There's Chimp Paradox is a great book. If anyone wants to like get into it, it's a book that I've actually given to clients before. And I've asked them to, some of them, not all of them will do it, but I've asked them to read it. And they'll read it and they'll come back to you and they just understand all the struggles that they've been through of like, why am I telling Tim that I want to lose weight? Yeah, I sit there and eat donuts every day. You know, it's like...
That happens.
That's probably why, because now
you had a conversation with a client about that very thing this morning, Jay, didn't you?
Yeah, was going through that with him.
Yeah, and they probably beat themselves up about it. If it's a woman, they certainly will do as well.
Yeah.
So I think I do a lot more of the behavior change stuff now, but I think you can, like I said about Premier, I realized like 18 months later that they had actually taught you a bit of stuff that I then started, just even simple stuff about goal setting and keeping track and, you know, simple stuff like that, which I think at some point you kind of lose doing that and you focus too much on the training.
Yeah, this is true. Okay. Well, dude, where can people find out more about you if they want to look up more into the behavioral change side of things and want to have an eye?
I've got a free group, which you can link to, the Institute of Fitness Behavior Change. I've got a book as well, which is teaching people how to create and deliver specifically high value online programs. But you can, it's all about coaching as well. Coaching in the gym is really important as well. I can give you a link for that. Yeah, probably the best place, those two.
Lovely job, mate.
Cool. Deadly.
Dude, thanks for spending the time with us today. It was seriously fucking interesting. And I loved your 5 strategies. Deadly, mate.
Cool. Awesome.
Cool, man.
Cheers. Take care.
Kiev.
Yeah. Mate, I plan to, don't worry. I'm here for 2 months.
Stay away from Latvians.
All right, guys.
All right,
See
mate.
you later, my man.
Bye-bye.
Oh, this is where all the gangs